Well, how the hell is your free agency week going? We're Flames fans, so it's the shits. ArmChair GM podcast coming right at you with some feels and some takes on our free agency for the Flames so far since, since Johnny kind of left us. Um, yeah, we'll be right back. All right, Dylan. We've pretty much just had the worst week of free agency in the franchise history.
I'd
Pretty sure.
probably say so.
Yeah, it's been pretty much unbelievable.
It made me stop looking at social media so much. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I actually canceled one account.
No,
It might have been my trash talking account, but I don't have a lot of trash to talk at the moment. In case anybody's been living under a rock, Johnny Gaudreau decided that in the 11th hour, mind you, he decided he didn't want to play for the Calgary Flames anymore. He just kind of gave us the middle finger, fuck you, and trying to get any sort of value for me. I'm going to Columbus for about 15 to 16 million dollars less over a span of time. And then the latest news yesterday being Matthew Tkachuk has given us the old cold shoulder. Thanks for drafting me. Thanks for developing me. Thanks for teaching me everything I've learned in the NHL level, but I'm not going to continue on with you. I want to be with mom and dad or something along those lines.
something along those lines. Now I heard that the it's hard to take Eric Francis seriously, but
What do you mean?
Well, he said that the leaked list was fake. The list that basically had Vegas and then all the Central teams on it.
Right.
Apparently that was fake. However, one thing that I don't know if was reported on very much, but from what I've heard, that list was all of the tax-free states.
Yes.
Income tax-free states. So everybody who's been, shitting on Johnny for not taking the money, and now Tkachuk's going somewhere else for the money.
Well, I mean, he is a Tkachuk, right? They're known for that.
Absolutely.
His younger brother decided to sign for, I think, not a bad contract. It's pretty decent value for the team.
He's also not as, he's a great player, but he's not like Matthew is a better player. True. I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I mean, do we think that Matthew is 3-4 million a season better than Brady?
No.
Because I sure as fuck don't.
No, I think Brady's contract is a bit of a underpay, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's his contract look like again? Did he go?
I don't know, but I just got a new computer, so hopefully I don't go all robot on this when I check.
Let's see. Because I believe, Brady is 8.2. Yeah. So I mean he's 8.2, which I mean I say value. I like the player that Brady is. I like his tenacious play, much like Matthew has been in the past. He certainly wasn't this year, which is fine. Not taking anything away from Matthew's play. But I mean, it's a pretty decent contract, I think, for Brady, and that's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years at 8.205.
And he actually doesn't have any movement until any no movement clause until the last 3 years of that. I didn't know that. That's actually quite shocking to me.
Absolutely, and and this contract came with a letter. Like there's a lot of different reasons why you can respect younger Chuck for sticking it out with the team that it, quite frankly, was horrendous when he signed that contract.
It was, but you could see where it was going.
Right.
Um,
Right. So that's, to me,
we've never
that's
done
an
that.
intelligent person, right? Like he
Yeah.
sees where the team's going. He knows that there's going to be like a process to them building into something, right? Where Matthew just comes off, his obviously his highlight career because he played on a line with Johnny Gaudreau,
Yep.
and doesn't see the value. Obviously, there's not as much value for him now with Johnny gone.
Yep.
Right. So,
but there's more value in the fact that all of a sudden he is far and away the best winger on the team.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Like if he would have stayed, he would be the far and away the best winger on the team, and he would also be likely have given this the captaincy. And like if you're handing him what was reported as 8 times 11, which is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's too much for me. But if that's what he got, you'd have a hard time thinking that you don't give like the second highest paid player in the league, I think, captaincy.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And like when I heard the rumblings of the 11, and I'm thinking to myself, aside from this year, I mean, 77 is his career high, and that was 4 years ago.
And that was playing a defensive role with Backlund and Frolik.
Yep.
Right. And that's what amazes me is that he put up those numbers with 2 defensive minded players in the, as a kid, as a very young player, starting in the defensive zone all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it doesn't surprise me that he got to 104 points. Do I think he's going to again next year? Well, I guess we'll see who he's playing with, but he could, but I think he's more of a 80 to 90 point guy, not playing with, one of the top 3 playmakers in the league.
See, you have a higher expectation of Matthew Tkachuk than I do. I mean, aside from his career high of 77, beside that, it was 61 points. So, I mean, I see him as a 65 to 85 point player for his career. And I honestly thought that the 9 mil was too much.
Well, last year was his first year as a first liner, wasn't it?
True. Yeah.
So it was his first year, and it was his first year playing with those players, because the year before that, if I'm not mistaken, was still, for the most part, was Monahan and Lindholm with Gaudreau, right? And then near the end they switched it.
Yeah, until Darryl came to town and said no. But the interesting thing is, so last year and the year before, so 2019, 20, and 2021, he played over 18 minutes or averaged over 18 minutes a game. Last year on the top line, he averaged just shy of 18, 17.54 was his average of ice time. So much like Mangiapane, he was more effective with less ice time.
With better players, though. Mangiapane's more effective with shittier players.
Which is just fucking asinine to me, because he can't drive the play.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me. Like,
yeah.
How is he able to produce more with less talent around him? And like playing with Dubé. Dubé's not forcing plays and brilliant passes and things like that.
No, he's fast, and he's too fast for his own skill.
Lombardi.
Yeah. That's actually a really good comparison. But I'm curious to see, because I don't see us getting any winger that is Matthew Tkachuk's level or Johnny Gaudreau's level, even close to it to start next season.
Not with what's available or what's left of free agency. That's for damn sure.
Especially considering, Brad's been sitting on his hands, but we'll get to that. Yeah. So Mangiapane and Dubé are going to, as long as Mangiapane signs, they're going to get a lot more chances, right? In my opinion, I think they're going to,
yeah.
If Mangiapane isn't given, first line minutes here and there, probably not the entire season, but, for, games at a time, I'd be pretty surprised, especially considering he's, unfortunately, probably our best winger left.
Fuck's sake. Well, thanks for bringing down the mood of the room, Dylan.
Yeah, right. But some guys, I mean, again, Mangiapane plays better with third line minutes, scores a ton of goals with third line minutes, playing with, fucking the Brett Richies of the world for some reason. Yeah. But who knows? Maybe if he's playing with Lindholm and I don't even know who else would be on the first line. Right? But
could you imagine if we go into the 22-23 season with Mangiapane, Lindholm, and Toffoli?
I guess Toffoli, eh? Yeah.
It feels like that, doesn't it? Because Brad, yeah.
Coleman?
God. That'd be quite the change, right? Third line in Tampa winning the cup, second line in Calgary going to the second round, and then first line by default.
Fuck. But again, some guys, glass half full. Some guys are, they step up when given the opportunity. Maybe they've never been given the opportunity to play first line minutes before. Like Coleman's never played first line minutes, even when he was, scoring 20 goals in New Jersey. He wasn't a first liner. Maybe with more ice time, more responsibility, he gets back to 20-25 goals, and maybe Mangiapane, I'm not saying he's going to hit 35 again, because my thoughts on Mangiapane.
He can hit 20, right? And
yeah, 25 I think is a pretty
yeah.
If I look at my career projections for Mangiapane, he's going to be between 22 and 30 for most of his career, but he's about to be paid probably long term like a 35 goal scorer.
Right. And that pisses me off. And for the record, I know I kind of just went like Coleman on the first line. I love Coleman. He's exactly what this team needed last
at
season.
the time.
A grinder, a player with passion, and and
winning,
hard-nosed winner. And I have nothing but respect for Coleman, so I don't want that to come off like
the thing is we respect second, third, fourth liners for what they are, right? You and I do that, right? We understand that there's a place for those guys, but what we're upset about, or at least what I'm upset about, is that Coleman and Toffoli have the chance to be our first liners.
Yes.
That's not their role. That should never be their role. Right?
Hey, Brad, that shouldn't fucking happen.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Okay, let's get
out of your ass and start fucking making some trades, some acquisitions, make this team better, or at least announce that we're doing a rebuild. I don't give a shit which one it is.
Okay. So here's my thing with Tree Living.
Yeah.
I'm not upset with him about the Johnny Gaudreau situation. I'm not upset with him about the Matthew Tkachuk situation, because we've known, been back and forth on the Gaudreau thing, if he's going to resign, if he's not going to resign, for his whole contract. Right? Yeah. As a fan base, as a media, like the media, it's been a question marks since before he even signed his restricted free agent deal, right?
Well,
And
look how
with
hard
Kachuk,
Conrad.
there's been rumors for him to St. Louis for like 3 fucking years.
Yeah, since
Right?
he was like 7.
Yeah. So yeah, and these are things that we have known about,
Yeah.
or at least been in the rumor mill. Things that we should be ready for. Things that Brad Tree Living should be ready for. I'm not upset with him that Gaudreau left. I'm disappointed that Gaudreau left. I'm not upset with Brad or um Johnny that he's gone. I'm not upset with Brad that Kachuk has come out and said goodbye, basically. What I'm upset with is the lack of any fucking thing else. He hasn't learned. He had all of his eggs in the Johnny Gaudreau basket. That fell apart. He took all of those eggs, put them in another basket instead of taking some of those eggs, chucking them in the Kachuk basket, taking some of those eggs, throwing them into free agency, taking some of those eggs, throwing them into trades, and multitasking like a fucking general manager should. Having a plan B. There was no fucking plan B. There should have been a plan B. He should have had things ready to go like any other GM would do. That's what fucking pisses me off.
The plan B should have been written out and brought to the owners, because we all know the owners fucking have to have their goddamn say in everything we do on the hockey level, right? That plan B should have been brought to the owners in January.
Yep.
At the earliest, or sorry, at the latest. My apologies. Like there has been no plan at all.
No.
And you're right.
No.
You're 100% correct. He just went, God, I hope this works. And it didn't work. And you could see the look on his face in that press conference. He was defeated.
Exactly. And that's the vision I have of what he's been like ever since, sitting in his chair in the Saddle Dome or wherever the fuck he's at. He's sitting there with that look on his face, making calls to people, being like, this really sucks. What will you give me for Kachuk? Not, this is what I fucking want for Kachuk.
Yeah.
Right? He's not.
Yeah.
It's like, I think he threw in the towel the second Johnny Gaudreau left. And it's to the point where there's reports that Mangiapane, it's not even a report, it's from his agent that was on 960, the radio show in Calgary, the radio station in Calgary. Mangiapane's agent, Rich Winter, said, we went out and gave the Flames a long-term offer for Mangiapane, because Mangiapane apparently wants to stay long-term. Yep. Apparently they gave the Flames a long-term offer, and instead of countering, instead of Brad giving him an offer, which he should have done in the first place, and you know how I feel about Mangiapane, he's the only guy we got fucking left at this point. So maybe it's time to pay at least one of our fucking guys. I don't know, but or at least start the conversation and the contract negotiations with him, instead of him giving the Flames, him going up to Brad Tree Living and being like, this is my long-term offer, and then Brad just going, hey, you're going to arbitration. I'm gonna put this off to the side until arbitration happens. Like,
so just so we're kind of following along with the goings on of Mangiapane in every one of his contracts.
He's gone to arbitration.
He's always gone to arbitration. His agent has always said, we have a long-term contract that we want to put forth, that we were trying to do.
No, last time he didn't. Last time he straight up said, we want a short-term deal to see how it goes from here.
This last one, right?
Yeah.
So this last one, that was like, that
2
was
years
the
ago
2 year. Yeah, it was the 2 year. The one before that, when the 1920 season, he said he wanted a long-term contract, and that's when we signed him for $715,000. Mangiapane and his agent played games and have on every one of their fucking contracts. I don't take anything that he says as gospel whatsoever. I suspect, at least my feeling, and it's 100% mine, that he probably threw a 3-year contract on at $7 million. And Brad just kind of went, I don't have time for this horse shit. I've got actual fucking work to do.
See,
That's
I
where
feel like
that's where my thought is on it.
I'm kind of on that as well. I feel like it was probably not a 3-year contract. I think it was probably more like a 7x7 or something like that. And Brad was like, no, which is good, but
Yeah.
that's when he should have gone back and there should have been a negotiation. That's the whole thing, right? Agents and players always start high, almost always.
Of course, yeah.
The team always starts low.
Yeah, that's how.
And then you find a middle ground.
It's negotiating 101, and
Absolutely.
I get that. And I mean,
so why didn't he go back? Like now he's just waiting for arbitration instead of going back. And
he's not necessarily waiting for arbitration. He just, I mean, making people wait for a response is also a part of negotiating.
Don't we know that?
Yeah. Right. Until they fucking, yeah. Anyways, I mean, Mangiapane, like, is even, I understand he's pretty much the only person we have to focus on right now as far as contract. I'm not worried about Mangiapane. If Mangiapane isn't on the Flames roster next year, my feeling on the team is exactly the same as it is right now.
You see, mine is too, but at the same time, the way I'm looking at it is I'm not entirely sure if we need to go like full on rebuild.
I agree.
But
it all depends on what we get back from Matthew, right?
To an extent, but again, we're not going to get a replacement for both Matthew and Johnny just from Matthew. That's fucking impossible.
I agree. So here's the thing. As Calgary Flames fans, we've dealt with this fucking mediocre bullshit for 20 years, right?
Yep.
This finishing off between 10th and 8th, and 10th and 8th. You're going 1 year, make it to be knocked out in the first. Next year, don't make it. Next year, make it, knocked out in the first. And the 2015 hit. Boom, we beat Vancouver. Yay, we made the second round. Following year, same bullshit. We finally just had it where we made the second round and got embarrassed by the Oilers. Like that was a shit show.
It was.
Which, I mean, that's another complete topic, as it is.
Yeah.
So with that team and losing 2 players on our top line, if we can't replace both players with similar production in regular season, we're not making playoffs. Right?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. It's weird. The odds makers, even after the Tkachuk news, the odds makers still have us third.
They're dumb as fuck.
There's
no fucking way.
Like Anaheim got better.
Yeah.
Fucking
the entire
LA got better. Edmonton got way better. Like maybe a wild card spot at best.
At best. And that's what I'm saying. Like, so I understand that, we can patch it together and keep chugging along, but what's the end game? Just more of this fucking 8 to 10 bullshit.
Yep.
Like, tear it the fuck down and rebuild a winning team.
So
don't have Brad doing it, but like,
yeah, Brad's not a rebuilder. I mean, I guess we've never seen him try, but I don't think he would know how to rebuild properly. But I'm not sure if just knowing how strong this draft is supposed to be and knowing how strong the next draft is also supposed to be, not as strong as this draft, but it's also like supposed to be pretty decent. My thought is we don't need to go full on rebuild. And I don't want to just retool. I want to do like a quick rebuild, like the Avs did. And I'm not saying that just because they won. I'm saying that because I think that they got themselves high into some really important drafts. And what we need to do is maybe not sell off everyone, but sell off a few of the really high value players.
Yep.
Maybe buy some bad contracts from other teams that expire in the next year or two.
Yep.
Get some value back. Keep Monahan. Keep Lucic, because what's the point in paying somebody to take them if we're not gonna?
Yeah, I agree with that.
If we don't need the cap space to contend, so 2, maybe 3 years. Get as many firsts and seconds for this year, and then kind of as you can, which I think you could, and I think it's important that we do it over the summer, because if you save everything for the trade deadline, then all those teams that are taking, they're all going to be in the playoffs for sure.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be picking with those picks late.
Yeah.
Whereas if you spread, 3 or 4 guys out, maybe throughout the league, and get some first round picks, including Tkachuk, chances are a couple of those are still going to be 20th to 32nd picks, but chances are a few of those are going to be top 15 picks.
Yep.
Right. Because even if teams, the chances of every team that you trade to, if you're trading, 3, 4, 5 guys, the chances of all of them being contenders is pretty low.
It is. Yeah.
Right. So chances are you still get some decent picks in this draft that's supposed to be really good. And then if you're trading a few of your picks off, then the Flames are going to be low and pick high, likely. And I'm not saying it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be fucking brutal to watch.
Of course it is.
3 years of shit is worth.
I watched the 90s. So, yeah. I mean, a couple of years of shit hockey doesn't bother me in the least. Not at all.
Yeah.
I'll still go to the Dome. I'll still buy tickets when they're less value, and you know what I mean? Like I have no problem doing that. I've never had a problem doing that.
Yeah.
I did it in the 90s. I did it up until 2004, and then all of a sudden they went on the run and everybody in the city became a fan again. Where the fuck were you for 15 years? Anyways, yeah. I mean, I have no problem doing that. And as long as you can see that there's direction, I don't think the majority of Flames fans will have an issue with that.
The ones that know what the direction is and can actually understand what's happening.
100%.
Like, yeah. even if you have to, like, as an organization, come out with a letter saying, like, this is going to be a rough 2-3 years, and explain to the fans what's happening and how you're going to come out of it, and you're going to have a new arena that players are going to love to play in theory, right?
God.
In maybe.
Yeah, don't announce that. Our mayor still has a few more years.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like,
I do.
And then, and even if you look at Ottawa, like, there's still no real reason to play there, but people are going there because they rebuilt properly. Well, they're kind of a bad example because they took way too long to do it.
Right.
But I feel like if you get good picks for the next 3 years, you could do what Ottawa's done way faster.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll have older players like fucking Claude Giroux looking at the team. Sure, he's from there, but looking at the team when they hit unrestricted free agency and being like, hey, this is a good team. This is a good young team with, all they need is, a piece or two and veteran leadership. And then those guys will come in, and that's how you build a good culture, I think.
Winning culture. So with that being said, and this is something I've been really mulling over the last, well, especially since yesterday and the day before, maybe the day before that. Remember you and I talking about that whole Jake Muzzin incident with Kachuk, and flipping the puck at him, and nobody came to his aid, and we talked about how there's something going on in that locker room.
Yeah, and I don't think that was ever dealt with.
I don't think it was ever dealt with either. The only thing that has changed since then is the captain has been gone, who should have been, in my opinion, somebody that kind of not necessarily stuck up for him or came to his aid, but at least showed some fucking emotion, right? Be a leader,
said something, like
be a captain and do something, right?
Again, we weren't in the locker room for that, and I think
True.
that was a little bit. The incident itself was overblown, but I think that is the problems that had been in the locker room that we may not have seen until then. That's just when they came to a head.
Exactly. The boiling point, right?
Yeah, the tip.
100%. And one of the things that were circling as far as actual media, and what they're talking about, was potentially Backlund being part of the issue in that situation.
Yeah, I remember hearing that too.
And the one thing that kind of in my brain, and I'll come back to what my feeling of Michael Backlund is, as a person and a player in a minute. But if you think about, because I truly think there's something gross or dangerous going on in the locker room at the moment, and that's why we have this mass exodus of players, whether it be AHL players, whether it be Flames players. I want to call them the Heat, but I'm pretty sure
Wranglers or whatever the fuck they're going to be called.
I fucking hope so, dude.
Yeah,
I'm so excited about that branding, but that's
and here's another thing too is
Calgarian. So just to kind of wrap that up, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the only thing still constant in the organization from that time to now really is that Backlund thing, right? Like, we know it's not Monahan, because Johnny and Monahan are super fucking tight. Like, that's not even a question. We know it's not Luch. People love Luch. Players love Luch. It's not that.
Coaches, everyone. Well, not in Edmonton, but yeah.
Coaches are different here now, opposed to then. So I don't think it's coaching. I mean, look at what Johnny did under Daryl. Daryl taught him how to play a different game, and he had a career year. Daryl taught Matthew how to play a different game. He had a career year. I honestly don't think it's Daryl. Daryl is an intelligent human being. He's a fucking hell of a coach. I don't think that has anything to do with what's happening.
I think that players get tired of him after 3 or 4 years.
Sure. I can see that.
But it's been a year and 2 months of playing.
Exactly.
Right? Like, I want to nip that in the bud too.
Yeah.
It's not Daryl.
And they just came off their best season since 2015. So
yeah, exactly. And that's it's largely because of Daryl. It's very largely because of the choices Daryl made, and
and we're about to have 4 players, 2 of which left, and 2 which have stayed, that are going to get considerable raises because of the years they just had playing under Daryl Sutter.
Yep.
Right. So
absolutely huge raises.
Right. Except for, in my opinion, the bottom 2 that are still within the organization.
Yeah.
So again, that kind of, to me, circles back to Backlund. And I really fucking hate to say that, because I've been a huge Backlund supporter for
both have
a decade. Like, yeah, you as well.
There's so many people that consistently rip on Backlund
as a player, which is horseshit in my opinion.
Yeah, like, he's not a top end scorer, but he's the only player in the league who ever can shut down McDavid, in my opinion. And he doesn't do it all the time, because how can you? But every once in a while he throws out a game and where McDavid doesn't do anything, and that's because of Backlund. But you can, if there's a problem in the locker room that is Backlund, then that's more serious to me than losing a guy who can shut down players, right?
I
Like,
agree.
I
That's
like
kind of where I
Backlund.
was
I
going
love
with that.
Backlund. Yeah.
If we're kind of going into a mini retool or a full whatever, but I mean, as you were saying, your preference is a mini, which I totally get that, because we do have some really good pieces to follow up with that, so that does make sense to me. But if we're going into a little retool, and we have that sort of situation happening within the room, what do you think we can get for Backlund? Because if it is there, it has to be pulled out.
Yeah. I think that, and I hate to say this, how old is he? 30. He's my age, so he's 32, 33, something like that. The game that Backlund plays tends not to age super great. Like we say, the game Gaudreau plays probably ages pretty good because he doesn't.
You mean the Selkie style? Like, don't they play until they're like 37, 38, 39?
Well, that's the one guy, yeah.
He's 33.
Yeah. I think that this might be the last, and I don't think you can get like a top 15 pick for him, but I think you could probably throw a contender that's low on centers, like an actual contender, and get like a 25th ish 25 to 30th overall pick for Backlund. And I think that would be the best time to do that, because I think as he ages a little bit more, and his contract I think is 2 years away, then you're not gonna get as much. Plus, if right now, if you send him somewhere and you, like, he's say a second line, third line center on a contender, then you can also, if we're going to do a 2 or 3 year retool, you can hold on to a little bit of that salary and boost the value.
Yeah, no, that's true. So one thing I'm when I look at what the Flames have and what they need as far as picks and all that fun stuff, right? We don't have a third for next year. So what if we could get a third round and a medium size
prospect?
Yeah, a mid-sized prospect for him. Do you think that's something we could pull off?
Like a 20-year-old with second line upside type of thing?
Yeah. Or even a, like a 22, 23-year-old that's in the A that,
looks ready, a Ruziska type.
Yeah, looks ready, but the franchise that we're trading with doesn't necessarily think that they're ever going to be there,
or they don't have room.
Yeah, project pilot, whatever, right?
I wouldn't hate that.
I mean, and like I said, I really hate to even talk about it because I've always been a Backlund fan.
But if that, and I want to say this too, I don't think either of us, well, I know neither of us know if Backlund is the problem. I think it's us doing kind of the process of elimination, because there's got to be something going on in there.
Yeah.
And we've been saying it for a couple of years, and he's the guy that's left.
So he has 2 more years of a modified no trade, right?
What is the modified no trade?
10-team trade. So
that's lots, especially if you're trading him to a contender.
Yeah.
If you don't have
he has huge value on a contender, in my opinion, because of that 200-foot game.
like if you hold, what is he,
5.35.
5.35? So if you hold 2 million of that for 2 years, we're not planning on contending. You get a third rounder or actually, you know what? If you don't hold any, you get a third rounder and a prospect. If you do hold 2 million of that, you get a second rounder and a prospect.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. I was going to correct you on that.
Yeah. Okay. So, and even better, if you do that, and then you take one of their bad contracts, you get a first rounder and a prospect.
Sure.
Right. You can do that type of stuff. I'm not saying it's possible, but
contending teams generally don't have a bad contract just sitting there, but
sometimes they do. Sometimes they have, I'm not saying all of them do, but some of them do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But 10 teams that's a lot to play with, I think.
At 10's tons, especially if you're not worried about, like, if you're getting a third or a second rounder, you're usually not so worried with the quality of the second or third rounder as you are with a first rounder, because a 60th overall pick as opposed to a 70th overall pick, the chance of that hitting is about the same, whereas a fourth overall pick as opposed to a 15th overall pick, that's a huge difference.
It could be
in
100%.
theory.
Yeah, for sure.
So I like that. I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Say we do go this 3-year rebuild, I'll just say, and you want to keep 2 players, 2 veteranish type players that can help teach the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Which 2 players are you keeping? Like,
this is, so are we talking about keeping the 2 players through the 2-year and then obviously using their services for another 2 after that? Right, to continue with the team
either way, either if you want to let them go or if you want to keep them.
So on the forward ranks, without a doubt, is Lindholm.
Yeah, me too. And you're going to say Tanev, aren't you?
I am going to say Tanev. Look what he does with kids.
Tanev's probably kids. He's the whisperer.
Yeah,
and if you have a bunch of young forwards, you want Lindholm, who's a Selke candidate, right? You want him to be the 100%. Guy to teach the other young players how to play solid offensive and defensively. 200 foot.
Absolutely.
Right.
Offense is great. Who doesn't love to jump out of their seat because of a goal?
Yeah.
But what? Some of us jump out of our seat because somebody back checks and steals the puck from somebody too.
Exactly.
That excites a lot of us.
Yeah. But here's a question. I think it's worth keeping. I think we have enough players that we can recoup enough assets, enough good young players that we can recoup enough assets to do a quick rebuild and keep those 2. But I think Lindholm might be the most value we have left.
I agree.
But I also think he's the most value to keep.
Yeah. If you're talking about contending teams at the moment, I think, obviously, as far as return, Lindholm would be the guy. But Tanev is 32.
I think he'd probably leave after the contract is done if that's what we did, and I'd be okay with that.
I would be too. As long as he did his job. Like, he only has 2 more years, right? Next year and the season after.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think I'd rather keep Lindholm over Tanev. And I think Tanev is the type of guy that you can really put in there at the deadline.
I do too. Warrior.
Yeah. For a team that's just getting ready to get into a playoff mentality, how is Tanev not your one of your top 10 in the league?
Yeah. No, I agree with that. So Yeah, I think that we should do that, but here's my next question for you.
Mhm.
Is the ownership going to let us? If that's the direction Brad wants to take.
Ownership? No, ownership is I mean, I can't even say ownership. Like it's we talk about ownership mostly as a fan base, like it's a group of people, which it is technically.
Okay, Edwards.
Murray Edwards is a fucking idiot.
Go on. You look like you want to talk.
How do you put your nose into hockey operations for so many years when you know not a fucking thing about hockey? Knock it off.
Right?
Seriously. Jesus, you're killing us. You have a passionate fan base who just wants nothing better than to watch our team do well, and you keep fucking us over. Quit it.
Putting basically
That felt good. That felt good.
So for those
thanks,
of
Murray,
you
for
that
allowing me to do that. You fucking
you're welcome.
idiot.
So for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, it's been last year, I think it was reported on that there was a couple of, I think like 4 teams where the GM isn't allowed to do anything without ownership's blessing, basically. And we were in there. And this is something that
it's been widely reported for about 20 years in Calgary. But
yeah, I see that was the first time I'd really read about it. Or maybe not the first time, but one of the first times I'd read about it. Like in an official, like this has been leaked manner, and not just in a this is a rumor that the fans have been talking about manner.
Yeah.
But it makes a lot of sense. And even if you go back to the trade in 2019, when we were supposed to get Jason Zucker from Pittsburgh, I believe. And the reason that didn't happen was because the paperwork was filed just like a couple minutes after the deadline. And the reason that happened was because Brad couldn't just do it and had to go through Edwards.
Yeah.
Right. And that would have been one of the pieces that would have helped us all along in that run. Right. That would have been great.
Well, look at like even when it comes to players, when it's kind of getting to a point where we should trade them to get value and get return and continue building a winning product.
Again,
right.
Yeah.
Like there's been so many over the years, right? You have Iginla, who should have been traded a year before, possibly 2 years before he was, for maximum value.
I agree with that.
Like I understand the fanfare and I get that, but Jerome wanted to leave, right? Like he wanted to go get a cup, and we weren't building a team to do that. We were in that 8 to 10 mix,
to 10 to 12,
right?
Yeah,
right. We were in the middle of that bullshit. We were just bringing in these, one exciting player at a time, right? Let's bring in Tonge. Let's bring in Camilleri. None of which is what we needed. We needed a fucking number one center. We've needed a number one center forever. But we're just, bringing in these little guys to play with Jerome.
Jokinen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yep.
Why not twice?
And because of the era I grew up watching mostly, those guys that you mentioned and Jokinen are players that I love. Tanguay,
and rightfully so.
I fucking love Tanguay. Like he's before the Johnny and Kachuk era. Tanguay and Iginla were my 2 favorite Flames, other than Regier. Like my 2 favorite forwards.
So where were these guys in their career though? Right?
Oh, back 9 for sure.
Right.
Especially Jokinen. Jokinen was like back 12.
Back 100%. the
Yeah.
first time.
Yeah.
And then we bring him back. He's like, well, here's joking in with no hair. He's got to be better.
Yeah. Fucking Moonface.
Right. And it's like, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I understand what you're saying, being, a fan from that era.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like-
but still, so
Like that's what
being
we're
a fan
bringing
from that
into
era and
to
getting
be a winning
those
product.
players.
Like it's a
was
winning
good.
product we're trying to get on the ice, and ownership has always blocked us from doing that.
Exactly.
Only so they can bring in these, former greats to put asses in seats and sell tickets. Right?
Yeah.
That's their only goal.
Oops. And that's a problem they're gonna have next year, I think. Like without the 200 plus point players, a lot of people aren't gonna be going.
It's gonna be a big problem unless Brad can start doing some shit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, ownership's always been a problem.
Yeah.
Making the right moves have been a problem. And one thing I just wanted to push back a little bit on, yes, we should have probably traded again like a year or two before we did. I do agree with that. But another reason why that trade was bad wasn't his fault. It was really bad drafting. Like really, really fucking bad drafting.
It was bad drafting.
We still could have got more if we had traded him first, or if he
what
had.
did we draft with that? Like Klimchuk? Wasn't that one of the pieces? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, and you're absolutely correct. Yeah, it was terrible scouting at the time for sure. We had a way better deal with Boston at the time, and it was so good that Boston beat Pittsburgh. It was so good, and it made me laugh out loud. I was so happy about that. Sorry again, you kind of fucked us on that one a little, and so karma kind of bit you.
So it was Kenny Agostino, Ben Hanowski, and the 28th overall pick, which ended up being Morgan Klimchuk.
Yeah.
Now,
I can't remember what the deal was reported as from Boston, but it was so much better than Agostino.
It was Agostino and a first and something else. I can't remember. And you know what? I don't even think that was specifically much better of a deal, to be honest.
It was.
I really don't.
Agostino obviously wasn't part of that, right? Because we got that from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But I don't even think. Let's see if I can find it. But
so to carry on that, right? So okay, we'll talk about the Iginla thing. Okay, whatever. I think we should have traded him a year or two beforehand for maximum value. Not that he wasn't producing; he was still producing, but you could tell that he was, becoming less effective, and he wanted a cup, and rightfully so. He deserves a cup.
Absolutely.
And then you take guys like Giordano, right? The kid wins a Norris. The kid, I say the kid, because he is actually younger than I am. Wins a Norris. I don't know. When do you trade him?
I think we talked about this on the channel before. In fact, I think I said it right after he won the Norris.
Right.
Fucking then.
If you don't trade him then, you trade him mid-year the next season.
So how old was he when he won that? 32, 34 or something like that?
Yeah.
So Chris, when do players generally decline harshly?
I'm going to say at 34, 35.
Yeah. So you have a player who he didn't even have a really great season the season before that. And then he went on to have a really great season. The Flames had a really good season. I think that was the season we were second in the league, first in the West. And he wins a Norris. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was 34 at the time. This is when players
start decline.
Not even start, but usually when they harshly decline. right?
Yeah. And in Gio's defense, if he was 34 at the time, which I think you actually might be right, he is still very like that following season. I don't feel like his decline was his body. I think his decline was his brain, and
I do too.
it just happened to work out that way.
And it showed in that Dallas series a lot. The not the play-in series, but this series after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
When he just started fucking whipping the puck over the boards every time he got it, it just frustrated the shit out of me.
Well,
but
when you're taking those kinds of penalties, I mean, that's lack of discipline.
Yeah,
it shouldn't happen from your captain.
But back to
Norris winning.
Back to when we should have traded him.
Mm-hmm.
To me, and the reason I said it back then too, asset management is a huge fucking thing for me. We just saw it with Johnny Gaudreau. We saw it with, losing Giordano for nothing as well, which again isn't a huge deal because at the time he really wasn't that fucking good. But with asset management, you see 34-year-old defenseman win a Norris, highest value he's ever had.
It doesn't get any better.
Likely to decline harshly within the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Fucking, you could have got a haul for him.
You imagine 100%. Like we're
should have traded him right
a,
fucking then.
A first, a second, a prospect, and a player.
Yeah.
Like for a 34-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
And then
fast forward to this year, we've lost Gaudreau for nothing because, and I will never fault Brad for this. It was poor asset management the year before, I think, in not trading him or extending him was poor asset management the year before. But this year, you don't trade somebody halfway through, you don't trade your best player halfway through the, best season the team's had in however many years, right?
No, and I get that. But the one thing I do fault Brad on is allowing the Gaudreau camp to dictate when they're negotiating or talking. There should have been conversations leading through the season. And if there was any inkling that Johnny was walking, Brad had to pull the trigger at the very end of the season and trade Johnny's rights to somebody or trade Johnny as a player to somebody.
Yep. I agree with that. I do
fault Brad at, because I understand what you're saying. Because Johnny really just bent us over the barrel at 2 p.m. on the day before, you know what I mean? I get that.
I'm okay with him not talking contract during the season, but 3 days, everybody's got a little bit of time to get over the loss to the Oilers. 3 days after that, 4 days after that, get on it. If he doesn't want to talk about it, fucking hound him. Be like, listen,
I need
listen,
an answer
Johnny
right
Gaudreau
now.
and Louis Gross.
Are we talking or are we not talking? If we're talking, great, let's go now. If we're not talking, then I'm trading.
Exactly.
Like there has to be that conversation.
I have given you the respect of not talking throughout the season because that's what you wanted. Season's fucking over.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
Let's fucking go. Because at that
we're not
going
to get
at that
much
point,
for him at that point. We're going to get like a third.
Month and a half, 2 months to go, right?
Yeah.
So 2 months. Let's go. If it's not going to go anywhere, I want to know right fucking now.
Yeah.
Period.
And I don't even think it's because of the return, because you don't generally get a whole bunch of return for a pending unrestricted free agent. You do for a pending restricted free agent, but not for a pending unrestricted free agent. I think it's more to allow the organization the time to reset, make that plan B that they should have fucking had already.
Right.
Go with the plan B, bring somebody in
to get a return.
The second best player on the team to fucking stay.
That's right.
and convince Lindholm, who we're probably going to lose here in a couple of years because he's going to be on a shit team, right? Like, to stay.
Yeah.
But now we've lost it. Not everyone.
Well, and set the tone for the entire organization, for all the players. Like, we're not your fucking stepping stone, right? Like, we're here as an organization. We're a business.
Yep.
You know, and we want you here, but we're not here to be fucking pushed around.
Yeah.
Like,
nope,
I get it.
I totally agree.
We're Canadians
100%.
and we're fucking nice, but fuck off. We're here to run our organization.
This is a business.
Yeah.
And I 100% think that Johnny, like, didn't know. He truly didn't know. But I think that as a businessman,
yeah,
as a general manager,
as somebody that runs a business, I don't fucking care.
That's it, right?
You know what I mean?
It's
really
not,
don't. I mean, I get, sure, he didn't know, but as somebody that is trying to move a business forward, that would not have flown with me. That would not have been an option at that hour.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Like, you can't run a business that way.
Yeah. If and the big thing for me was he let him handcuff the team without doing anything else. Like, we're talking in circles now, but without doing anything, like, he didn't fucking do anything else. He sat
Nothing.
and waited for Gaudreau to say something for fucking weeks.
What have we signed?
Zadorov, Rooney, and
Zadorov. I really love the fact that we picked up Zadorov for a couple of years without a pay raise. That's great work by Brett.
And my favorite part of that is the legitimate love that honestly, it didn't even seem like Zadorov had for the city, but for the dome and the people in it.
Yeah. It actually kind of blew me away because I didn't realize that he felt that
way. Me neither.
Yeah, I was happy to hear that. I really was.
Me too. And I'm just gonna put this away real quick, just as a quick little sidebar. Congratulations to Eric Branson.
Right.
I'm fucking pumped.
Motherfucker, fuck him.
I'm fucking pumped that we did not pay that much for him.
True.
I would have loved to have had him even at 4 years on a $2.5 million deal, but he got 4 times 4, and fucking good for him. He cashed in on his only good season ever, and I fucking love that man. So good for him.
From the bottom of my heart, Branson, fuck you. Congratulations.
Exactly.
No, you know what? I really wanted the Flames to re-sign.
Yeah, but you would have been pissed if they did it 4x4.
4x4 was more than I wanted for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, 2x4 I could have lived with.
Yep, me too.
But
could you have lived with 4x2? 4 million, 2 years?
Yes.
I'd still have a hard time with that, but
that was what I meant by my 2x4.
Oh, I thought you meant 2 million by 4 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, how old is he? 36? I don't want to pay him 4 years.
I don't think he's that old.
No, you might be right. He might be 32.
But either way, congratulations to him.
Absolutely. No, I'm happy for him. You know, he restarted his career in Calgary last year.
Again, Daryl Sutter.
What? It's almost like the man knows what he's doing.
Yeah. How long have we been on here, Chris? Is it getting to be time to call it?
Don't be silly. Yeah, no, it's been a while. I haven't even timed it.
Okay.
Not even once have I timed it. I don't know why I haven't timed it because I normally do. Yeah, he's only 30 years old. God, he looks like he's an old man.
And he seems like he's been around forever. And he was like a 3rd overall pick.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, good for him. he didn't turn out the way that a third overall pick should turn out.
No, and it's
He's
super unfortunate because I love his game. I'm a defensive lover, right? Like I'm a Robin Regier, fucking
Yeah.
hard nose, let's go. You know, I was a Dion Phaneuf lover until Dion Phaneuf became who he became. Um, I love the defenseman and the hard nosed player. Like he's like, like even just that story about him, you know, biting through his own tongue in the
Yeah.
game and getting in shit from Daryl for taking 25 minutes like that. Like that's such an amazing little story, but he still came back to the game, right?
Yeah.
Like he's tough as nails.
Yeah.
He plays the game the right way. Love the guy.
Yeah. I don't think Daryl was pissed off with him. I think he was pissed off with the team doctors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, because he could stitch up a cow in 5 minutes. Yeah. But yeah. No, I mean that's where we're at, right? We're looking at some weirdness in the Flames. We're looking at losing, not looking at. We have lost two of our two players from our top line, which is
Cornerstones.
just
Really.
fucking gross. We were about to start building a franchise around two players, those two players. So aside from the anger and just frustration, I mean, I'm just getting back from holidays, so even sitting on the dock while fishing, looking at my phone, seeing Johnny leaving the Flames, and I just like, fuck, you know what?
It's depressing.
It's super depressing. But if we can pull together a reasonable looking rebuild or retool over a 2, 3, 4 year span, fine. I'm tired of the 8 to 10, 8 to 10, 8
mediocre.
To 10.
So would you rather that the 2, 3, 4 year rebuild type of thing, or would you rather
I'd
kind
rather
of take this year for what it is and then try and go for the big free agents and the big trades next year?
We've drafted fourth one time in
That
the history, right?
that turned out great.
Your favorite player.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I'd rather tear it.
Tear it down.
Yeah.
Like more than 3 or 4 years?
4
4 to 6?
4 to 6. Yeah. And
I wouldn't hate that either.
That's when we project Wolf to start getting into his true form and being a true number one. I would think that we have maybe 4, 5, 6 players from the Heat that can come up and play over the next 3 years, 4 years.
Something like that, yeah.
The
That's Wranglers.
The Wranglers. You're right. Which is so much better. The Cowboys. But
the hats. I don't know.
The hats.
That was stupid.
Like I'm not super impressed with our farm, other than the fact that they look great playing against American League hockey or American Hockey League teams. I'm not. We need more size. We need more size, right?
Yep.
And I hope that they can come up and be decent NHL players. I truly do, but we need more size, and you could see that that's somewhat what we drafted this year.
Yeah,
that Brad.
There's people who were furious over that.
Yeah,
like, oh, you guys, you drafted size over skill, and it's like we drafted 3 picks,
right,
starting in the third round, like.
Exactly. Yeah, our options were limited.
Like, right? Calm down. It's one thing if you're like drafting 5th overall and you go off the board and draft this fucking Mark Jankowski. Like, that would be a mistake.
You know what? Do you miss Jay Feaster?
I
That was a rhetorical question. I apologize. Don't answer that. I'm sure Jay's a great guy.
Jay Feaster, I don't think would have sat on his hands this whole. I think he would have forced something throughout this last couple weeks.
What's he going to force? Jay Feaster was the first to come out and actually publicly say that he had his hands tied with ownership.
Well, I don't mean with ownership. I mean with the Gaudreau camp, basically.
Yeah. Brad's a nice guy. Maybe you should go manage a Boston Pizza.
I'm honestly, I mean, I know it's hard to fire somebody when they're halfway through big franchise altering moves.
Yeah.
But I feel like
he's not the guy that I want rebuilding this team. I'll tell you.
He's not the guy I want making these decisions right now. And again, I don't blame him for those two guys leaving. That's more, political / money / family things that he couldn't help. Right.
Yeah.
I blame him for doing nothing else. And just like you, I don't want him anywhere near the franchise right now. And I feel like most GMs would be happier starting right now, choosing the package they want for Tkachuk, moving forward, tearing it down if that's what they want to do, not tearing it down if that's what they want to do, and making this team their own instead of living with whatever decisions Brad makes over the next month before he gets fired.
Sure. 100%. I agree with you.
Yeah.
So that being said, we appreciate all of you that
still Flames, go Flames always.
We appreciate the guys and girls that stuck it out through this painful session of our emotions, we'll say.
Yeah.
Especially mine. I kind of went off the rails a couple of times, and I don't apologize for that.
That's me neither. That's fine.
I do want to say one thing. Johnny Gaudreau, thanks for the memories. Good luck in Columbus. Zadarov's going to run you over, and the Dome's going to cheer for it. I know it's a bad thing to say, but you understand.
Yeah.
Matthew Tkachuk, good luck in St. Louis. I'm going to run you over. Fuck you. We were trying to build a franchise around you.
I just want to put a quick sidebar out there. I'm actually really excited to see something. I have been fucking begging for Patrick Laine in Calgary for years.
Yeah.
And I know you know that. So specifically to play with Johnny Gaudreau. So I am really excited to watch that. I'm not going to go out and watch a whole shitload of Columbus games, but I'll definitely watch a couple more than I would have otherwise just to see how that's working, because I truly think I'm right about that.
Yeah.
I think Laine is going to hit 45 probably goals at least.
I'm sure he's licking his chops, and he's not happy about the lack of cap that he has to work on an extension with, but it's what it is.
Yeah. Well, they're probably going to have to trade somebody, but whatever.
Which is fine. Yeah.
Anyways, all right. Well, that's that. Cheers.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Have yourself a great night. We'll talk to you later.
See you soon.